I'm all for rotation, Sid, and I like it if you've got the depth in your squad and you're lucky enough as a manager, go for it. It's a season where you'll have 65 games. You can't play every single game. But if you look at the Mallorca defeat, the Levante defeat, and this Betis defeat, the point in common is that Fede Valverde was left on the bench each of those 3 games. And guess what? There was no intensity. There was not enough rhythm from Real Madrid, and they ended up losing that. I don't know why you're looking at me, shaking your hands like that.
I'm shaking my head.
Let me finish, and let's see what Sid say. Why on earth was he a sub again in that game? It made no sense to me to have that midfield that it's not going to work. Casemiro, Kroos, and Modric, they don't work anymore. Even especially away from home when you play against a team that would be obviously very aggressive, because Betis were always going to be aggressive last night in a game like that. It made no sense why he benched Valverde again for a game like that.
Well, I think there's a broader question there, and I broadly speaking, I agree with you. And I obviously, look, Zidane's idea is that you rotate, you keep everyone as kind of part of it, because at times you'll need them and you want them to be participants at that moment in which you do need them, and therefore you need them to be playing even at those moments when maybe you don't need them. The only person he's not really applying this to, of course, is Gareth Bale, who he seems to be trying to send the exact opposite message to. But the thing with Valverde is, I sort of take you back to off the back of that Mallorca game, as Madrid started to find their feet kind of through November, December, just about into January. And this was a Madrid team, and we talked about this, that wasn't particularly brilliant. Right, this wasn't a Madrid team that all of a sudden you think, wow, they're brilliant. But there was a sense of kind of reliability about them. There was a sense of intensity about them. There was a sense of kind of competitiveness about them. And at the risk of exaggerating, and I realise I probably am exaggerating this a bit, the explanation for that was genuinely point the finger. Oh, it's that guy there. It's that Uruguayan guy in midfield. And Valverde, genuinely, it was the dynamism of him, it was the aggressiveness of him, the enthusiasm that he brought that seemed to be contagious to everybody else. And I'm not, as I say, I'm exaggerating when you say he's the one that did it. But in part, he did. This sort of shift in seriousness and kind of like, this is a team that can win the league. Why? Because every week they'll go for it. Every week they'll be aggressive. Every week they'll be defensively kind of focused. That there'll be a degree of concentration and aggressiveness about them that has been lacking in previous seasons. There's a reason why they've only won, I think it's 2 league titles of the last 11. Right? And you look at Valverde and you saw him as the embodiment of this kind of shift in attitude as much as anything else, if not necessarily in talent. And so, yeah, I agree. When he's not in the team, and you cannot, I think, reduce it to one player, but it's really, really tempting to do so, because a lot of the time it feels like he is the key to everything. So, yeah, his absence was very surprising. That said, I suppose you could say, however poorly they've been playing, however much it feels like it doesn't work, a midfield of Kroos, Modric and Casemiro should still be good enough, shouldn't it?
Yeah, no, you're right. Why were you shaking your hand then? What's your problem with Valverde?
No, because you get these tropes with Real Madrid where all of a sudden an individual player becomes absolutely crucial. It's like when he benched Kroos a couple of games ago, and then all of a sudden, like, oh look, what a fool! How can this team win without Kroos? Now it's, how can this team do it without Valverde?
Actually, there is a point there. You can put those two together, because I think what we've seen this season is we've seen that obviously Casemiro is absolutely vital. We know that Valverde is the energy and the intensity. But if you want to be able to keep the ball, if you want to keep the ball moving, if you want to play with intelligence, then you do need Kroos. And I hate to say this as someone who really, really likes him, but the one you don't need probably is Modric.
No, look, fair enough. I think Modric has been on the slide for a long time, and I think, if they could have moved him in the summer beyond the paper talk, they would have. And I think that whole thing with his new contract and whatever, I thought that was all nonsense. But equally, you have to keep this guy involved, because for the time being anyway, you're still involved in the Champions League.
Oh, absolutely, of course.
And you know what? If you mention how these 3 midfielders, Kroos, Casemiro, and Valverde, are all absolutely essential and so vital and so good, you need to find room for 2 of those 3 guys. You should be able to go and perform.
Exactly. No, that's exactly the point. That's absolutely right. You go away to Betis, you should be able to use 2 and be able to not use one of them. That shouldn't be a problem in itself.
Thanks so much for watching ESPN on YouTube. And for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for premium content and live streaming, subscribe to ESPN Plus.